Testing, testing. All right. Are we good? Okay. Good with sound. Good with sound. Hi, Clutter Free family. Welcome to the Clarity Hotline. It's been a while, a couple weeks. Yeah, I can't remember. Anyway, I definitely took Thanksgiving Day off. That's for sure. But I think I took the week before that off too. Probably because one of my kids was homesick. Who knows? I don't remember. But anyway, we're back for Clarity Hotline. And today's a juicy one. We're going to get into the Kardashians episode and more. I mean, this one, we're talking sex, drugs, alcohol, feminism, minimalism, motherhood, and so much more on this episode of the Clarity Hotline. And the question comes from Kourtney Kardashian. She asks on the show, I mean, in so many words, not really, verbatim, but her thing, she brings up the question, do you stay at home with your littles or do you go to work? And she's kind of like in this, I think, this like emotional battle with her sisters who are choosing to work and be, and have their kids. And then she's choosing not to work with her youngest, Rocky, who she just had with Travis. And so there's just so much. There's so much to talk about. So let's get into it. But we got to center, right? Sigh, gotta just come down for a minute. Because I was about to write a blog post on this. That's how serious. So I have to read some of what I started to write because I'm like so fired up about this topic. It reminds me of when I talked about that Surrounded with Candace Owen, and she was against feminists. And it brings up so much of that. But it's just so fascinating that this is the conversation happening right now. So let's get into it. First, big breath in. Big breath out. Ooh, the shoulders, let them drop. Just loosen the tension in the jaw, loosen the tension in the forehead. Release. Inhale and exhale. Do that full body just release into that exhale, that open mouth exhale. So you're pushing out the tension and the anxiety, because without anxiety, there can be clarity. Without all the noise, there can be clarity. And that's what we're all about here, is finding our own truth, our own clarity, finding it for ourselves. Nobody else can tell us our own clarity. We've got to see it for ourselves from our own vantage point, from where we sit right now, from where we are in life. This is where clarity is born, from nowhere else. And so let's keep breathing if you have to. I'm ready. I can go. But the breathing, the practice of breath is so important to just ground and center so that we can be here. I will tell you, it is a vibe here because I've got my candle. It's wooden. It's by Patty Wax. It's my favorite candle and my favorite Christmas candle. And so it's just giving me all the joys and what's the cheer of Christmas. Anyway, it's probably going to go out while we're on this this hotline, just FYI. But if it does, I'm going to consider it good luck and order another one. Okay, so all right, so let's just do it. The question from Kourtney Kardashian was basically, do you go to work when with kids? She's got the young, I don't know how old Rocky is on the show. But then you've got the people who are choosing to work and have littles at home and put them in daycare and stuff. So it's rife with political tension for sure. But she brings on Erica Komisar, which writes the book Being There. And I don't have my phone, but she writes this book Being There. I would show you the cover. But anyway, she's talking about basically why motherhood is so important in the first 0 to 3 years of a child, and how babies need their mom. Baby needs the mother figure. And if it's not a mother figure, a maternal caretaker is basically what that means, like with the maternal instincts, and would do things from that perspective, right? Do things to care for this child from that maternal place is what she's saying is the most important thing for a child between the ages of 0 to 3. And again, from ages 9 to 25. In her book, she's talking about that first age range, 0 to 3. And in a way, Kourtney has her on to speak to her, and some of her friends are at her house and they're sitting on the couch. And this was a recent episode in season 7. of the Kardashians. And Erica's basically saying, this is how it is. And since the rise of industrialism and feminism, women are, there's more of a conversation around women going back to work and not being home with their babies. And I read some of the comments on her post on Facebook, Erica's, and her comments said, a lot of stay-at-home moms were like, oh my gosh, thank you. I'm so glad you got this information out to on this big a platform, because on social media, we just get talk trash about, stay-at-home moms choosing to be home with their babes. And instead of going back to work, right? And at the risk of maybe looking inferior to the working class, or privileged to the working class, whatever the reason, we don't know the context of every single individual mom who chooses to stay home for her babies with the intention of raising her babies and not putting them in daycare and keeping them home so that she can be the one to provide that nurture, that mothering whenever they need, for whatever they need, right? Everything from milk to love, devotion, and attention. And so there's that, right? And not to say that the working mother doesn't have all those same feels for her babies, but she's going back to work for whatever the reason. And she's saying that it boils down to this, this economics versus emotional. So there's like the parties that believe in the economics of mothers going back to work. Very true, very real. And then there's the parties that believe that women should stay home because you're protecting the emotional state of that child, and therefore maybe the mental health industry as a whole, right? There's she's correlating those first 3 years with mother bode well for a better mental state, a better mental health as an adult. And so if we, as mothers, choose to stay home, we could probably positively, she's saying, this is her saying, we could positively affect their future emotional state. And what is emotion? I mean, that's more so tied to, the right brain, the right brain of self-confidence and being comfortable in your own skin and having self-love. And from there, being able to love others and empathy and compassion and wholeness. There's so much that comes from the right brain because it's attached directly to the heart. And there's the left brain, more results, more masculine. And that kind of idea is like, no, let's get back to work. Let's make money. Let's get far ahead in life. And so there's those two dominant voices. And I believe Erica probably believes that the more masculine conversation is the loudest, the most dominant out there. And because it does ring true with the feminism movement, who's like, let's go back to work. Like, go back to work and be paid the same amount as men. But she's saying, so she did a podcast that was really incredible. And then she did, the book is pretty incredible, but I have to give you some backstory on the book. But anyway, it's funny. It's Thanksgiving related. But anyway, so she's saying all that. And she's like so fed up that she wants to impact politics and government change and, the infrastructure of institutions, even to the point where she's saying, boys should be in schools by themselves and girls should be in schools by themselves. You don't mix them until they're, I forgot what age she said, but 7 or up. I don't know. But not under 5. She's thinking, let the boys be boys and the girls be girls because they learn differently. And I believe that too. I'm a mom of boys. So I see that. I mean, I don't know if I really honestly don't know. I have 2 to compare it to, right? 2 that kind of show me that, yeah, I could see the value of that versus having 1 boy, 1 girl. You might have a different perspective, or having 2 girls also having a different perspective. So who knows? My perspective is not the one, but it's where I'm coming from. Anyway, so I wanted to give you a backstory. So this Thanksgiving, I met up with all of my old high school buddies and just wow, it was a great, like, whoa, reunion. We're all kind of coming out from this cave of being mom, to meet up and like see what's everyone up to and catch up. And it was amazing. It was great. And on separate occasions, my elementary friends, my high school friends, and anyway, one of my high school friends in particular, she'll know herself when she watches this, was talking about the book Erica Komisar, and she and I had talked about this before. Anyway, it came up again on Thanksgiving, and we were talking about the book, and I was like, I did read that book. Like, I read that book, but I was so into so many other mothering books, especially when my boys were under 3, that it was just one of those that just kind of got blended in. And I think I honestly, I tuned a lot of it out because, and I probably didn't even finish the book, to be honest. But anyway, I tuned a lot of it out because I kind of already believe that. So it wasn't changing my perspective. I'd already kind of believed what she's writing in her book. And so I think I just was like, oh, okay, I know all this stuff. So as long as I'm like, okay, well, I'm getting some confirmation, my soul felt rested and I felt good to move on from the book. Anyway, it came up again. And then, so then I hear that Courtney had her on. So then I had to tune into Hulu onto this episode and watch start to finish. And boy, was I enlightened. One, I had to catch up with the Kardashians, which I haven't seen since the show's launch. But I was like, I love the Kardashians. I think they're great. Anyway, I used to watch, Keeping Up with a long time ago. So it was like, oh, I have to tune in and see Courtney. I love Courtney. She's got Erica Komisar on there. And so I was like, okay, so got to watch that. So I watched that, and then I had to read the book again. And by read in this scenario, I mean listen to. Audiobooks is my saving grace for keeping up with all the books I want to read. Anyway, I read this one on audiobook. So this was my second go around, but this time I really listened to it. And yeah, I was just like, okay, all right, we got to talk about this. Anyway, so it became a blog, and now I'm here and I'm talking to you guys about that. And this is what we've got to talk about. Okay, so let me read you some of what I wrote, because I really think that it's so hard, to be a mom. You're met with so much judgment as mothers. And when I watch the show, I'm seeing these 3 women, Kim, Courtney, Chloe, all moms, all successful and powerful in their own right, and moms, and one choosing not to work, Courtney, and the other 2 are. And so, but you're seeing like different perspectives on how they're doing it. And they're now on this like level playing field with Kris Jenner, their mom, who is also successful, also a mom, powerful in her own way. And so they've all evolved, right? Emotionally, spiritually, physically. They've done so much, and in the public eye. So they're like probably, they still have ego, but they're probably so beyond taking themselves that seriously for you to get to that level of fame and fortune. You got some good insight into the world and yourself. Anyway, so now they can talk trash about Kris because, they're moms too. And they probably, there's like a reckoning, for motherhood and mothering, and like, whoa, yeah, they did this. And so I'm hearing stuff. I don't know if you guys have kept up, but I'm hearing stuff for the first time. Like, I didn't know Kris was controlling and a yeller like that. But the way her daughters talk about her, I'm sure it's like not only to them, but to the staff. Like I could just imagine her in a conference meeting, like blowing her top. And I don't know if that's what I'm assuming. But anyway, so the girls are comparing themselves to her. And so they're saying, well, at least I didn't, blow up like Kris would, or, screaming. So apparently she's a screamer. And so then you hear, and I'm not laughing at this. I'm not laughing at them. I'm laughing with the scenario because they're laughing too. So anyway, so I got to read you what I wrote. So on this episode, how crazy is this? So it starts with Chloe talking about if she can come back in another life, who would she come back with? She picks Kendall first. Supermodel, just beautiful, like jet set lifestyle. And then she says, okay, who's your next person? Or she said, I think I'm right here, but I don't know. I could be wrong. But anyway, her next one was Kylie. This is true. She's like, imagine just being like the princess of the media and like, having this fairy tale life. That's what she's kind of saying Kylie has. So she'd want to come back as her younger sisters. Well, anyway, In that same episode from that, it goes to Courtney having Erica on, and they're talking about all this, and Courtney's like, "Oh, I it's so nice to find something that I connect with, which is this thought of like, I should be home with my kids, not working." And then she went to Australia and she took Rocky, the baby, with her. And Erica's like, yes, take the baby with you when you travel because the baby needs that secure attachment. She calls it attachment parenting. And it's basically that the mother figure caretaker is present in those first 3 years, present and available nonstop, right, for this baby, not on your terms, not at your work schedule, but on those babies' terms when they need you, when they need to drink, when they need to sleep, when they need to coo and caw and look in someone's eyes and recognize, oh, face structure and words and language and they're syncing. We actually did an episode on this couple weeks ago, your bad habits create your kids' bad habits, that episode, where it's like our babies are syncing with our vibration. And so if we're not bringing it with the positive vibes, then they're going to feel the stress and personify it. They're going to relate it to whatever they're able to experience at the time. And then what's funny is like we're going to therapy and we're trying to come to terms with big or little t trauma in our lives as to like what's wrong with me and how come I'm not okay and how come I'm not happy and this and that. And that's all well and good, but then like we don't even remember the first 3 years of our lives, because Erica said, who's a psychoanalyst, but she's done a lot of scientific research, she's a psychoanalyst, she was saying how we don't even have memories before 3 years old. Like it's not typical to have a memory younger than 3. So it's like we're seeking out this therapy, but are we going to get to the heart of that, of just the fact that, oh, well, my mom didn't snuggle with me. I didn't think I was valuable because she didn't talk to me. She didn't feed me my first food. She didn't hold the bottle and stare at me. Instead, she was scrolling on her phone, which is another thing. Whew. So Eric, I think, I don't know how it got brought up, but somebody said something about like don't scroll on your phone, don't be on your phone while you're nursing. And instinctually you kind of why. It's because like you're taking in all that information and you're literally feeding that to your kid who's syncing with your vibration. So what does stress do to your body? How do you feel in your cells, like literally pulsating, right? How do you feel when you're worried, when you're scared, nervous, stressed out because an email comes in, an email, and you're reading an email and you got to get to it and you're thinking about, oh, what else do I have to do after this? Baby gets off my boob. Like, what do I have to do? Or you're scrolling and seeing these beautiful homes and these beautiful vacations, and you're here in this nightgown with this baby and you want those vacations and you want that beautiful home, but yours is dirty and messy and, you can't keep up with the dishes or the mopping and the vacuuming and the tidying and the putting the toys away because you're present and there with baby, that when playtime is over, you don't have the energy to now switch gears and go clean up. And maybe you don't financially have the means to pay someone else to do it, or you're not close to your family. And so the village is broken down that you don't really have someone else to come in and clean it for you. So it weighs heavily on your mind that you have to be the one to do it, unless, your partner steps up in that regard and is just as diligent as you want to be and can't in those areas. Would you feel settled? And you don't. And so see, all that's coming up as you're scrolling on your phone, as you're on your phone, handling your world. This baby is drinking it, like literally taking in your emotions. And let's see if I can get to my notes, because I want to bring us back to what Erica was saying. Anyway, Courtney was like, oh yeah, I didn't know that about being on my phone and breastfeeding. Now she's flooded with guilt, right? They show her face. She's like holding Rocky and she's like, oh, I have so much mom guilt right now. And, guilt is good because it just like opens our eyes to, okay, well, let's just shift gears here. It's not too late. Just shift gears. Guilt is just notifying our senses, like our body telling our brain that, hold on. Okay. Something feels incongruent. Like you've got to just you need to just check yourself about what is you actually want right now. Like, can you put the phone down and just be with baby in this moment? No, you can't be with baby the whole time. I'm sure there's like you need some stimulation or you might go insane. Like you need some stimulation, but you also recognize that this is part of it, right? This is part of motherhood is slowing this way down and not trying to keep up with the Kardashians. You are meant to be here and be still and bond with baby. Anyway, so then Courtney had Erica on. Then the next scene is Kim goes to the doctor, Dr. Daniel Amen. I mean, come on, these two have star-studded publicists, I'm sure, to get on this episode. But so Dr. Daniel Amen takes a scan of Scott and Kim's brains. And, you're hearing different stories of Kim having a beautiful brain and then Scott having a holy brain. And and so Dr. Amen's like, you do this, you got to change it. You can't keep going this route. Anyway, so he searches a little bit more on Kim's brain and there's some holes in the prefrontal cortex, which I don't know. Honestly, I just watched this. I didn't rewind and watch it again to make sure I got it correct. So watch it and see for yourself. But I'm pretty sure it was like the front of the brain, prefrontal cortex, which is essential for executive functions such as planning, decision-making, and impulse control. It acts as the gating mechanism that filters information, maintains attention, manages working memory, and allows for goal-directed behavior and emotional regulation. Other key functions include language, social behavior, and the processing of subjective value. And Kim is talking about how she's always so calm, cool, and collected. She can fall asleep anywhere, even in the club. And, this is just the way she's always been. And it's so unlike, the way her sisters are, let's say, or maybe the way her mom is. And they're all a byproduct, of Kris Jenner. And so you just kind of see like what of their mother they're carrying forward, right? Okay. So then after that, Kim's getting this advice from doctor. Then I believe they're preparing for the Met Gala and she's getting all glammed up, which she loves, Kim does, and Kourtney doesn't. And so they're on the phone and Kourtney then is on Khloé's podcast as the first guest of Khloé's new podcast. And Kourtney's the first guest, right? She's on maternity leave, for as long as she wants to be at this point, really. And anyway, she's the first guest, so she's there. But I think there's, this juxtaposition between getting a call from Kim, who's literally met Monday, getting glammed up. And Kourtney's like, oh, wouldn't you rather just be here on the couch like us talking? And then, and then Kim's like, and also getting glammed up is fun and exciting, and walking the red carpet, isn't it also exciting to do that? And so they're just at different points in their lives, and they have different values, and you're seeing that played out. And anyway, on the podcast, Kourtney's talking about how she has resentment. So this is when I first was like, what? I didn't know that. Kourtney was talking about how she has some resentment for her mother. Okay. So fair enough. I mean, I'm sure we all do, but like in different ways, and to different degrees, right? In degrees that hold us back from a relationship with her or not, And anyway, so she has some resentment. She's been in therapy and she was saying how she was very controlling. And so was Bruce, very controlling as a stepdad. And Khloé experienced otherwise and did not see Bruce as a controlling stepdad. But then Khloé's perspective on Kourtney's version of things and how she was raised by Kris and Bruce, and how she went to go live with her dad, who Khloé thinks is just because she's just ride or die for her dad. Like nobody can measure up to her dad. Bruce couldn't. So whatever Bruce did, he failed from the start, that kind of thing. So that's Khloé's perspective. And then Kourtney's is, what it is. It's that she was controlled and needed to get out from that. She probably is very similar to her dad and felt more comfortable kind of being around that temperament. Well, anyway, all of this was so enlightening because we get to see played out on national television what Kris Jenner, how that type of controlling personality can affect, her offspring in all these different ways. One, I think it should encourage us as mothers that we won't ever get it right. Okay. So just do your best. We won't ever get it right. I'm sure we'll screw up our kids in some way. Um, but see, that's where then it becomes their work. It becomes their work to walk their path and and recognize maybe what is at a deficit in themselves they are to bring to themselves. And anyway, I just think it's fascinating because you've got Kris, who's probably a workaholic. Then you've got Kim, who's self-mandated workaholic, said she is. And oh yeah, so she said, which I thought was funny. Some of the dialogue I just had to write down. So she said, Kim was like, so after the comment about being on the couch and she's at the Met Gala getting ready, she kept talking. Oh yeah. Anyway, it was about something else that Kim sent to the sister group text, and Kim had to tell Courtney, I did not come on this earth to rest in this incarnation. It's my life. I came here to work. So something like that. And like that is the truth, right? I mean, this is the way it is. Like everybody's got their different walk in life. And the when you see how one mom can kind of affect these different beings, you see that everyone's got their own way to find in this world. And we all have work to do. So the work Courtney's doing on herself, on her mothering, on her with her kids, for her kids, she's still working because she's doing the show. So she's still getting paid. And Travis, I'm sure, makes more than enough for them all. So it's like she does, and then who knows what Scott does, but it's like she's fine. She doesn't need to work, and she recognizes that. And so she's going to use that and be with her kids. And then you've got, Chloe and Kim, who are very active as working mothers. And I'm pretty, Kylie is too, I'm assuming. And because there's only so much you can passively still do as you're working your business, right? But social media, you can passively do, and they got the fame. You can do the show. You're producing it maybe just financially and not really having to get into the nitty gritty of it. And you're just kind of like, I'll just check out from production at this point. And so she gets to choose kind of how involved with her work she wants to be, her brand. And the other ones are still very actively involved. So, and growing them. Well, something that Erica's book talks about being there, her book, is, that we have to recognize there's this percentage of the population, the mom population, who want to go back to work and don't want to be home with their kids. And she says that, well, if there's not enough empathy to kind of put the kids first over career in whatever measure it's required, then there's something you're lacking way back when, in your own upbringing, in your own first 0 to 3 years on this earth, that is probably, just turn down the dial on the maternal instinct gene that would probably put you at home with baby and doing nothing else. And so I think we just all are on that dial. At some point we're turning things up or down, and maybe the maternal instincts are really strong, even for a working mom who finds it hard to be at work and not be home with her babies, but feels the pressure economically to stay at home, to stay at work, because everyone's talking about it. You need 2 incomes nowadays to afford anything. Erica, who has 3 kids and a husband, they talked about she had a great career as a psychoanalyst or a therapist or a licensed MFT, I'm not sure, but she had therapy clients. And then she and her husband agreed that she'd stop and maybe do like an hour worth of patient work while she was with her babies. So that was like an hour and a half of seeing patients. And that was maybe, the first, she had 3 kids. So up to maybe 5 years old of each. I don't know. But it was a while before she came back on the scene and started taking clients and now she's speaking and doing all this. But she waited. And what she said was profound. I wrote it down. I love how she put it, because when it comes to working, because the question is like, well, I want to work, right? And I want to get ahead in life and I want to, you know, realize my potential. So she's just saying when it comes to work, sleep when the kids sleep and work when the kids work. So as they come to get into school age and they're working themselves and they're doing their thing, right? You can start to work. You can start to build in as much of that time on an equivalent basis and work the same when they're working. And then come back and be mother, and you're all home together and you're being mother. Just like, when the babies are an infant, you sleep when the baby sleeps. But feeling like you have to work while the baby's sleeping and you're a nursing mom postpartum within months, right, of delivery, and you're trying to work instead of sleep when the baby sleeps, that's really hard on your own adjustment postpartum. Like, you are still in recovery. You have a 4th trimester still. So everything you did to make sure baby was good inside, you probably still want to do, right, in that 4th trimester for yourself, right? So all those healthy activities and just, I don't know, whatever you did, whatever felt to you like a healthy pregnancy, keep it going into the 4th trimester. I know, while you're nursing, you should still be taking your prenatals, for instance. So things still carry on until you feel like strong in this new version of yourself and you feel regulated and calm, cool, collected in who you are now as a mother. And then you can start to like bring in all the other stuff that was from an old identity and coming, and merging the two. So that's a deep conversation, because it's like, well, you've got the moms who want to bring in the money and go back to work, and then you and feel they have to, even, right? And then you've got the moms who don't feel they have to and don't feel the need to go back to work and choose to stay home, even at the risk of paring down a lot. Erica, the author, said she had to pare down a lot. So she made the agreement with her husband to not go back to work, to be home with baby. And they just, really got super simple. So people were doing the elaborate vacations. They weren't. People were, I don't know, buying new cars. They weren't. Buying second homes. They weren't. She chose to just keep it in the house, and just, head down. Let's focus on raising these babies until they're old enough to kind of like fend for themselves. And so she's, like I said, she teaches attachment parenting. So, which is basically what she believes to be how we just are hardwired as mothers to parent, is attachment parenting. And any deviation from that is us, not necessarily connecting with our maternal instincts. We are, straying more to the masculine side. But here's the thing. Neither is good or bad. Just like when we look at Kim and Courtney, neither are good or and bad. They're just on their own path. And it's a short-term perspective to, lay blame on somebody and say they're wrong. The more enlightened perspective is one that accounts for the long-term play. Like, we don't know what the sacrifices either one of those mothers is doing that will affect their kid positively. What we can say is that we wish Kim was home more, maybe for the youngest ones, and the youngest ones weren't at daycare or with a caretaker, but she probably was highly selective with the caretaker, probably chose somebody who was mother of the year, she could have done that. And that's her prerogative. Like, so if she doesn't have that gene, maybe she's supplementing it with like the people who are helping her raise her kids. And because I'm sure, she has a nanny staff, but that is, what that level of getting along in life can allow you to make those kinds of decisions. But we're always at choice. We're always at choice, no matter our economic status, no matter our emotional state. We're always at choice. And so every day we just have to put one foot in front of the other and make a choice. What feels good today to do more in my business? What feels good today? Be more at home because my baby's sick or my baby needs me, and I have to just really drop the ball on this and say I need a longer deadline. I need an extension. And I know a lot of employers won't, grant that leeway unless you're working for yourself, which is why I do what I do, because I think we as mothers can build a business while we have kids 0 to 3. We can build a business, but there's a smart way to go about it. One that doesn't neglect the child, and doesn't neglect you, and doesn't force you in the old identity of who you were pre-baby. Like one that molds itself around your new mom life, a business that supports you in how you want to mother. So remember, we talked about the dial. If I'm got my maternal instincts up all the way and I don't want to touch anything to do with an email that talks about anything, then okay, my dial's turned up. I probably won't start a business. But if I've got a little bit of ambition, or I'm coming from being an entrepreneur and now I want to pick my business back up, which is my case, being an entrepreneur, and Erica talks about this in her book, it's such an identity shift to like be an entrepreneur and then shift into mother, because you can't get back to that version of entrepreneur as you were then. You are a new entrepreneur, one that has to factor in like flexibility and time freedom and something a little bit more passive, so that if you are making ends meet with this business, it's got to work with that and be set up with systems and a foundation that is built to scale without you needing to be there so much. And believe it or not, there are things to do. So, and actually, when Chloe talked about how she didn't know to not have her phone while she was breastfeeding, to put it down, that is like one of the first things I coach a mom on, a mompreneur, is like, don't use your phone. Because think about it, what is all this about? What is all this boil down to? Energy exchange. We're trying to give our kids the best head start. And the only way to do that is to model the energy we hope they embody and hold over themselves, an energy of love and abundance, not one of lack and stress and inferiority and feeling like they never measure up or they're not good enough. Well, what energy will teach them the opposite? What energy will teach them that they're valuable, that they came to the earth to people who care about them and they matter to them no matter what? You are loved unconditionally, beyond your wildest imagination. To know a love like that, can we give them that? So then what is our energy when we're not sending that message? That's all it is. It's like, well, when we're not sending that message, it's probably because we don't feel it ourselves. We're not feeling the energy replenishment of love. We're not feeling the oxytocin. We're not feeling the serotonin. We don't feel pretty. I mean, really, right? It comes down to like the energy we're giving ourselves, the energy we hold within ourselves. And that's where self-care comes from, why we have to have self-care, because we need to replenish ourselves in some way. This baby's not going to get up and tell us thank you. This baby's not going to get up and pay our bills. This baby's not going to get up and cook a meal for us so we can sit down and eat and rest our bones. Like, no, you're doing that. You're doing that. And if you're not doing that well enough for yourself, and then you try to go and make money, the the gears are working backward because we're putting something above ourselves. I mean, what does the Bible say? We can't serve two masters. Well, in this regard, it's like, well, we can't serve money and expect to stay whole. We can't serve money and we're broken. We're gonna we're gonna be broken the whole way up the ladder. We're gonna be broken on our knees, striving to make it, climbing the hill. And we think that that's that martyrdom is cool. Like we think that, oh, well, that's how it goes. That's what it takes. Well, then if that's what you believe, then absolutely, sure. But what if you don't believe that? What if you don't believe that you don't have to be the martyr? You don't have to sacrifice everything. If you just had the perspective, meaning you don't have to sacrifice the things that make you feel good now to get ahead. And so what feels good now? What's important to you now as both entrepreneur and mom? Well, what does success look like for you? What does it look like right now? It doesn't have to always look like that right now. What can you keep up with? What are you willing to do? I'll have to link the other video that I did about this, where you've got to get clarity on a couple things when it comes to being a mompreneur. And one of them is clarity on what you're willing to do in this season of your life. The money will come. The money will come. And this is an abundance mentality, I know, but bear with me. The money will come if you're trusting your gut, and if your maternal instincts are veering you biologically away from chasing money, then let it. Let it steer you to where you feel you need to be. Where's the most important place you need to be right now? And you ask that second by second by second by second. It's work. So like we talked about, Courtney does her work, Kim does her work. We're all choosing our work. And just like Kim said, like in this incarnation, she's choosing to work in this way. The next incarnation, she probably would choose to work like Courtney works, on herself, on her health, on her mind, on her relationship with her kids, on her legacy in that regard. And then Kim, a different legacy, a different emotion, a different epitaph. Is that what it is? Epitaph, whatever's written on your tombstone. She's got a different, legend. But it's all good. It just ultimately depends on how honest you are with yourself about how you're living. If you're honest with yourself about, okay, I'd rather go work and not be home, and I'd rather send the baby to daycare, then own it and feel into that and love every nook and cranny of that emotion, because there is a flip side to that, right? There's a flip side to that. Loving to work, maybe you don't have the best relationship with your kids down the line because you weren't there to bond with them, and they didn't feel as important as your career, or you were so controlling that they feel like they are walking on eggshells their entire life and nothing feels good for them, and they are people pleasing, and so they go and get into relationships with people who abuse them, and emotionally, physically, however, and that's their life. You don't know. We don't know. We don't know the long-term play of any of our decisions today as mothers right now. Especially under 5. Like, I don't know what my boys are going to be like in the end. But what I do know, and what I talked about with a friend of mine, is that what I do know, like I know, thank you, Oprah. Like I know that the way I feel in every given moment matters. The way I feel in my relationship with them is what will indicate the direction we're going as a bonded relationship, as mother-child, because it's not always easy. It's not always easy to sacrifice for them yourself. Sometimes I need to run away, close the door of my bedroom, and like scream into a pillow, or cry my eyes out, because I don't know what I don't know, and I want to do it well. I want a mother well. I want a mother with so much love. They they're crazy to think nobody loves them. Like I just want them to know that, oh, my mom loves me. And from there, everything's possible. But I don't always get it right. I don't always get it right. And I don't know what's down the line for them. I don't know what adversity they're going to face, and the truth is I am a working woman. I love my work. I love to serve the people I serve in the way that I serve them. And the aha moments are like my purpose in a jar, to see the ahas on my clients' faces and to experience the changes that those ahas bring in terms of success in career and love and life and wholeness and enlightenment. Like that is everything. But then my boys are everything. Like nothing compares to them. Nothing compares to them. But I need both. I need both. And so eventually, like career will maybe take me away from home at the hours I don't want it to. And then I've got to come home and make up for it, for myself and for them, right? But then isn't that also the point, right? Isn't that also good? Isn't that good too? The way in parenting books, any book you'll read on parenting we'll talk about repair. So there's always repair. Whenever you feel like you did something wrong or I feel guilty about that, there's always repair. And but Erica Komisar says like, but if you murder someone, you can't go to confession, say, oh, I murdered somebody, say the 10 Hail Marys that it takes to receive penance and then go murder somebody again. No, you've got to do different. That was her example. But anyway, and I think that's what it is, right? Keep repairing, because there's always like some version of this multifaceted thing that is a relationship between mother and child, let alone anyone else and another person. This is like the most, at its core, the most bonded any two people could be, mother and child, born from the mother, right? A child born from that mother. And then every relationship is just, I guess, an iteration of that is a version of trying to fill that relationship, that formative relationship. Aren't we all just trying to get back to that one, right? Or seek it out in some other place if we didn't feel it in the beginning, or seek it out again, right? In a love romantic way. So, yeah. So this is a lot, right? I mean, it's a lot. We talked a lot. It's a lot of things, a lot of good things. But yeah, I think I will have to turn this into a blog post because I have so many things I wanted to tell you. I was like, is this a part 2 for the Clarity Hotline, the Kardashian episode? Yeah, because I think it's so much. And I know some of my girlfriends without kids bring me back to earth, like as far as, you can't obsess over everything. You're a good mom. You're not perfect. Like you can't try to be perfect. It just doesn't exist. And I appreciate that perspective because, I need to hear it. And then at the same time, I also tell myself that, no, I do need to be perfect. I do need to be a perfect mom. Well, anyway, this just all was like, wow, all in one episode, all of that. And I didn't even really get into other stuff that I wanted to talk about, but there was so much just in that one episode that I was just so happy that my high school friend who I met up with, like brought that up. And, I got to see that episode because I probably wouldn't have tuned in, at least not right now, And so I am really proud of, Erica Komisar for coming on the scene like this. And that book, I don't even know when it was written, but it was, some years ago, maybe decades ago. But I'm really proud of her coming on the scene and bringing kind of this, because this is political strife, right? We've got the economics versus the emotional of our society, and they're at war. And what one thinks is if you have the emotional aspect of the population healthy, then you wouldn't have such a burden on the financial. right? And then likewise, they say, well, if you have the economics and the financial stability of capitalism, then you can cure mental health, right? You can pay to cure it. You can be on that whole path of paying everybody to figure it out and work on it. So it's like two different camps, but I do see that the more masculine women working, go back to work sooner than a year after the baby's born is the norm and expected. Whereas, some countries a year is the minimum maternity leave and it's paid. And here in America, it's not, at least not for everybody, maternity leave. But I don't know all the whole politics of it, but I do know that the norm here is like 3 to 6 months is maternity leave. And I think really 3 months. Some companies I think are generous. And then you have FMLA and then you can get extensions on your maternity leave, but then at risk of your professional career. Like, if you want to get back to the professional career, what does that do, right, to your psyche when you're trying to get back to something that you used to be really good at and maybe you're not anymore because you've been focused on being a mom and 5 years have passed and now there's AI. And what is AI? I don't know. I've been a mom in the last 4, 5 years, and I don't know how to get all into it, right? The apps and the whatever, that it could throw some moms off, right? And get them scared to enter back into the workplace. Well, that is, yeah, anyway, doesn't have to be that complicated. But it is always a question of where do you need to be? Where do you need to be? Where's the most important place you believe in your heart that you need to be? Go with that. Go with that. And I think it won't steer you wrong, but you will have to make some decisions and make some sacrifices along the way that might look like scheduling yourself less for work, especially when the kids are little. As they start to get older and they start to go to their work, right? School and sports and things like that. You still want to be there though. You can also work, right? And so on kind of like this equal playing field of filling your schedule and doing your best to still be there for them, but then also have your own career and your own pursuit of passion and purpose happening for yourself, because that also matters, right? It matters for kids to see their moms thriving and loving life and not just barely surviving under a pile of laundry and depleted of all life because all she's doing is tidying all day. Like, no kid wants to see that. I loved seeing my mom just be this badass working woman and just rise to the top of her respective field, like her respective, vocation. And she was just good at it, and everybody loved her and she did great. And she's retired now and she's got this great pension and, like all these things or whatever, the retirement package, I don't know. So it's just good, right? You want to see that stuff. And so she's strong. She's a strong woman that I get to look up to. And I've always been inspired by my mom. And then you've got other moms who weren't at work. And so you see a different side, and maybe you see them there at your games, and that mattered a lot. They were at every game. They knew my best friends' names. They did bake sales and, helped me raise money for my soccer team. And they were just there. And I needed them to be there. And so that feels different, right? To some people. So it's like, but then there's all the other versions of that in between. It's not just one black and white. It's not just, this extreme to that extreme. It's everything in between. And we're just doing our best to show up in the best way, toggling this line basically, and or straddling the line, and just like, finding our place as mother and working woman. Anyway, so that's that. I think I can wrap up this Clarity Hotline. Oh, you haven't watched it? Okay, so I think it is, hold on, let me see. Hulu. What episode was that? Well, you'll know. Nikki, you can probably see it. But anyway, on Hulu, I think it's episode 2, season 7. It doesn't say Erica's name in there, but her, if you see the previews, you might see that Erica Komisar is on there talking to Courtney and her friends on the couch and saying some pretty controversial things that need to be said. Anyway, pretty fascinating. So we might have a part 2 on this because I literally am like scrolling my notes of all this stuff I did not say. Because it's like, oh, this like male dominated perspective in the working world is the loudest versus this like, the stay-at-home mom voice, because that was the Beaver, Leave It to Beavers. And now we're like in this era of like, okay, no, we don't want to be, what's her name? Beaver's mom, Judy Cleaver. Aww. Oh my gosh, Nick, you're gonna make me cry. Yes, it's the new one, The Kardashians. So not Keeping Up with the Kardashians, it's The Kardashians, their own show. They took it on as producers, and they're producing it on Hulu. And anyway, I just watched one episode, Nikki. So, yeah, maybe June, the month of June. I'm not sure, but tune into Hulu. You'll see it. The Kardashians. I believe it's episode 2. Maybe I'll have to put it. I'll link it. I'll have to link it. Anywho, yeah. So just a lot to just, come to terms with within yourself and decide for yourself, how you want to mother from here on out. June Cleaver. Thank you. Okay. June Cleaver. I said Judy Cleaver, I think. At least I got the Cleaver part right, I think. Leave It to Beaver, Cleaver. Okay. Clearly I did not watch that show. Okay. Mwah, mwah, mwah. Love you guys. Peace. See you next week. Okay. YouTube. I've had to find the tab. So anyway, thank you for tuning in. I'll put all the links in the description. It's easier to put it on YouTube than it is on Instagram, but we're going to do both. Thanks for tuning in as we just dissected the Kardashians episode, which is so funny that we even spent this whole entire time on that, but it brought up so much more. You thought it was just about the Kardashians. No, my friend, it was so much more. Anyway, see you next week. Thursday, 12 noon Pacific for the Clarity Hotline. Peace.